earlier in another session, you or Age, I think it was Age, I was talking about a mid 1800 splinter was here. She said she lived in New Hampshire, and the logging town name she doesn't remember, but the logging town is no longer around, she would believe. I did some research and found about 20 logging towns in New Hampshire that are no longer around.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be validation if one of those actually is where she lived?
It could well give Sarah some, as you say, validation. So you'll have to have, but okay, that was a splinter of the entity of which Sarah is a part.
Right.
And that splinter would have to come back. So you'd have to ask for that splinter to come and show her like a map with these, or a list of the logging camps or whatever, and see if any of them spark interest.
Yeah, because I've been working on that. That's about the only thing that she's had so far that has an inkling of validation.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place to start and see what happens. Not today, though.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
This would not be a good day.
Nope. I feel low energy is winding down.
Wait until she's completely over this cold. Physically back to her old self. And continue meditating to the tones that whatever tones you want to listen to when you meditate for whatever purpose. The 432 is a good one for both of you to start healing your bodies, not just of a cold here, but whatever else ails you. Where are you going, kitty?
Couldn't quite stretch it, so I thought I'd help him.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way in case he wants to come up. Oh, he wants up.
He wants up there. Come
Yeah.
on. He does that a lot. He'll just look at something and I'll help him with it.
And there are some of the other tones you can utilize as well to deepen a trance, a meditative trance, to open your minds, whatever. Yeah, there are things.
I've been thinking of building a body transducer, a magnet or a hard piece of metal or something along that lines that would actually vibrate at the frequency we're listening to place on our body so the body can absorb it. But I just asked my own question because I ordered the tuning forks. They did the same thing. Never mind.
Yeah, and you don't have to have the tone on your physical body. It will still have the same effect. Your body will absorb the frequency of the tone.
I thought it would absorb it better if it was in contact with us. Okay.
If that's what you believe, it will happen.
Well, yeah, but if that's a false belief, I don't want to believe it anymore.
Good for you. Good for you.
I did listen to 172 or 74 this morning because I was in some pain while I was playing some games when I first got up, and I was amazed. It did help very well.
These are the tones of the universe, basically, but particularly Earth, since that's where you are located physically. And so, yeah, they will definitely have a positive effect. And just keep on using them.
Okay. I was listening to a YouTube thing last night, and Sarah was too, where the channeler was channeling Palladians. And the question was posed, how many other civilizations are there in the galaxy? And they said 400,000. That's why I was looking for validation when I asked you the question earlier.
But they're at all different levels.
They said there's a lot in their star cluster that's still in the Bronze Age.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that surprising, as did other people. But it makes sense now.
Mm-hmm. Everyone is on their individual and collective paths. And you just have to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry so much. Well, worry is not the right word, but don't concern yourself as much with others. Concentrate on your own spiritual growth, vibrational frequency lifting, uplifting, and what you need to know, you will need to know it.
Thank you. That's the third time today I've had a ha-ha moment since we started talking.
Well, hallelujah. Glad I could help.
I am too. Would it be possible sometime for a entity that is not associated with Sarah be channeled by Sarah?
There's a high probability that that can happen.
What has to be done? Just more?
Keep on meditating, keep on practicing.
Because I would like to talk with Grumpy sometime.
Well, Grumpy might not want to talk to you.
Well, that's okay.
Too bad, because he talks to you anyway.
I know. Just curious, that's all.
And he took the name Grumpy because you can be pretty grumpy sometimes.
I can be.
And he is not necessarily grumpy.
So what is his name, or doesn't it matter?
It doesn't. Of course it doesn't matter. He's rolling his eyes and laughing at the same time. But of course he doesn't have little physical eyes, but you get the picture.
Yeah, I do. If he had eyes, he'd be rolling them.
Yeah. If he had a face and vocal cords and the mouth and everything, he'd be laughing.
Yeah.
So technically, yeah, he's rolling his eyes and laughing.
Do you have enough energy to provide us with a view of what you really look like in the physical world?
I have the energy, but you don't, and she doesn't have the energy to allow it to be manifest.
What does that mean?
It means that my energy as an entity is too much for your physical world.
That answers it, okay.
And I'm not even the highest of energies.
Yeah.
You know?
We've got that from other conversations with you.
Mm-hmm. I have to kind of tone it down a lot. And that's why I go by Thane. Because you have to have a name for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I'm not all-knowing or all-seeing or any of that. But I can tell you what I've learned on my journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that maybe one of these other times you visit, we will give you crayons and paper.
I'm a little kid.
Yeah, so you can draw a picture of his energy.
just give me like a big bundle of all different colors and I'll just on the paper.
There is no form to the energy, just free flowing. Is that the way our energy is too?
Pretty much.
Not too much of a form.
Not much of a form. Energy is just there. But how it moves and shifts and the colors within it are what identify you to me and others.
In this 3D world, we need inclusion in order to understand limits. The table is a bunch of atoms and molecules together as one unit, so it has inclusion. It's together. Sarah's body is inclusive. Mine is inclusive.
Yeah.
And we cannot go through each other physically.
Right.
So, up there, out there, wherever there is, how does a person remain inclusive? If there is no physicality, how does the energy coalesce in such a way that you stay that entity, or doesn't it matter?
It's because it's a... I'll be talking in circles there. Like I said, the energy kind of makes itself coalesce in certain ways, with certain colors, with certain little sparkles of light, with all of that in such a way that it's individual. And other entities can, for instance, each splinter being from a particular entity can have their own coalescence of energy.
That's a good word, coalescence.
And when they come together, all the splinters or several splinters come together, that entity as a whole, their coalescence changes because of all of them. But they can still pull out or stay in.
So if they stay in, they actually have thoughts, so to speak, of themselves and thoughts of the whole group at the same time?
To a degree.
Okay. Because way I interpret what you're saying, if they splinters come together, they lose their, in essence, their individuality, and it all flows up into the higher splinter. But they still have the ability to separate into their own selves. Is that?
So there's still a certain amount of self-awareness in each one, but they agree to subjugate that awareness into whatever larger splinter or the whole entity or whatever they're coalescing into with.
So in this
coalescence,
two of them come together and intertwine, so to speak. Their energies intermix.
Yeah, intermix. That's good.
And then they can separate, go on their way.
If they want to, if that's what they want to do.
What happens if two entity sources pass through each other? Or is that something that will not happen because it's not something that, would they cross through each other or will they go around each other?
They would cross through each other, but they don't normally. Why would they go back to a larger splinter or the original entity? I will say original entity. Why would they want to do that? But that's kind of what you're talking about, is basically what happens within the higher entity, is they're all commingled. Mm-hmm. With that sense that if they want to, if they're called upon, if they're going to learn something different over here than the rest of it is doing, then they can separate. But any way you look at it, they come together.
Right. Okay.